Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another video. Today we have a few exciting tidbits, and we're gonna start with the Andor series. Nemik was a fan favourite, a character with so much heart who was an eloquent rebel, one with an ideology that would change the galaxy forever, although he would never live to see it make a difference. His manifesto lived on in the hands of Cassian Andor, and the words from the manifesto ultimately became immortalised, and would help to form the foundation of what it meant to be a rebel. In the Andor Season 1 finale, Episode 12 Rick's Road, Cassian is seen reading it, and we hear Nemik's voice speak the words that would change his life. But one keen-eyed viewer noted something from Rogue One, which at the time was a mystery, but has now been explained through the genius of a Tony Gilroy retcon. On the planet of Jeddah, when Cassian is wearing his famous blue parka coat, there is what looks to be a notepad attached to it. The Rogue One visual guide doesn't give any explanation as to what it is, and for the last 6 years, it remained a mystery, but thanks to the Andor series, fans have noticed that it is unmistakably Nemik's manifesto, meaning that Cassian held onto it all the way up to his death in the 2016 movie. It was his motivation, and gave him all the perspective he needed on the fight. Tony Gilroy is a master of small details, and this is one I never thought would be explained, but lo and behold, the showrunner kept to his word of changing how we see Rogue One. Andor Season 1 gave us so much background, and I know that the Gilroyverse in total, which means Andor Season 1 and 2, and any future spin-off, is going to keep doing that. Rogue One is forever changed, and I love that with Star Wars. The same thing applies to the Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith, giving us a new point of view, details to look out for, and a new perspective on the whole. So really awesome stuff. Now, a couple of other tidbits from Andor Season 1. Did you know that the Time Grappler's bell is made out of Beskar? That's right, there could be a future connection between Ferrix and Mandalore. And there is a bit of foreshadowing here. In real-life history, which has always inspired Star Wars, the American Revolution bells were melted down to make weapons. Is this going to happen on Ferrix? If there is a link to Mandalore, could the raw Beskar from the bell be used to create a sort of armor? Now, if you're wondering how we know it's Beskar, it's in the audio description on Disney+. And so finally, one more tidbit for Andor before we move on. Some fans are curious if we're gonna see Kino Loy again. As I covered the other day, Gilroy says he lived, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does return in Season 2. But one fan theory states he will be back with sinister intention, and that his survival and maybe confrontation with Cassian teaches Andor to leave no witnesses, which connects to why he kills Tivik in Rogue One. Now personally, while technically the theory is sound, I don't see why Kino would be after Cassian, or even have any gripe with him. After all, he knew the escape was going to ultimately lead to others escaping and not him. He knew he couldn't swim, but if Kino had any sense in the world, he would take swimming lessons from the Gungans for 20 quid on Naboo. I'm just joking, of course. And so now, my dear friends, let's move on to our next topic. So it's been a hot minute since we spoke about Boba Fett. Apart from discussing the Book of Boba in depth when it came out, the last time I covered him, we talked about Blood Ties, the Legends collection of comics recounting Boba's life and motives, even up until his non-canon escape from the Sarlacc pit. I strongly recommend it to all Boba fans. Those comics, to my mind, demonstrate how to do Boba Fett's character justice, exploring the many facets of his personality, emotions, and overcoming his past, with a focus on Jango Fett, his father. I've always been a big Boba fan, and like others, we have a certain perception of the character that is influenced by the original trilogy, Attack of the Clones, and certain comics and expanded universe novels. Now, I often hear the arguments that Boba was always meant to be a background character, just a cool bounty hunter that functioned as eye candy, apart from his main role in The Empire Strikes Back, when he was hired by Vader to track down Han Solo. But I disagree. With the tie-in material like the books and comics, he had a backstory. He went on so many adventures, even had his identity stolen, escaped the Sarlacc pit, which of course the Book of Boba Fett did canonize, and was overall a fascinating character, one with his own demons and personal identity struggles. In other words, he wasn't just a bounty hunter, he was also a clone who lost his dad at a young age. And one of the more obscure young readers' expanded universe novels from 2002 is Boba Fett's The Fight to Survive, which has some amazing insight into Boba's mindset, his psyche, and goes through his real-time emotions on Geonosis when he witnesses Jango being beheaded by Mace Windu. This, which we do see in flashbacks in the Book of Boba Fett as well, sets the precedence for Boba's motivations throughout his entire life. So with all of that context out the way, I want to highlight something that Dave Filoni said a few months ago regarding the Book of Boba Fett. Now at the time I covered an adjacent interview with Jon Favreau, but not this one. In an interview with Vanity Fair, Dave Filoni explains why he thinks fans have overhyped Boba's reputation, and why fans don't actually understand Boba's character. He references The Empire Strikes Back and and Boba's interactions with Darth Vader. So Filoni recounted the events of the scene, reminding fans that Boba Fett, quote, doesn't capture Han Solo, but rather calls Darth Vader to capture him. So basically Boba Fett did the scouting work, found the Millennium Falcon, and told the Empire about it. As for the fan belief that Boba Fett could defy Darth Vader, Filoni says he never bought into the hype, so he wasn't disappointed when Boba Fett fell into the Sarlacc pit, because, quote, the story is not about him. This last bit I do agree with. Here's what he said: it's funny when you say Boba Fett stands up to Darth Vader. Does he do that? I think he was hired and Vader tells him, no disintegrations, and he's like, okay. I love Boba Fett, but even when I was a kid, the idea that he fell into the Sarlacc pit actually never disappointed me, because I'm like, the story is not about him. I mean, he's right. Episode 6 in the grand scheme of things has nothing to do with Boba Fett, and when he talks about standing up to Darth Vader, well, we don't see that in the film. It is very much something that is part of Legends. But in canon, Filoni's right. Boba Fett is afraid of the Empire, and he would never dare to defy Darth Vader. I mean, think of how terrified Boba Fett was in The Mandalorian when he sees Moff Gideon's ship and thinks the Empire is back. He was crapping himself. And then Filoni says, Boba Fett is a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I grew up with Boba Fett as a faceless, quiet, mysterious bounty hunter. All we knew was that he was scary enough that Darth Vader saw him as somebody to set out after Han Solo. Then by the time you hit the second movie that Boba was in, Return of the Jedi, that was a different version of the character. He got knocked into the Sarlacc pit and passed away. I think people assumed he would have lasted longer in that situation. And I do remember at the time when this article came out that a lot of folks disagreed with Dave Filoni, but again, he's also a Star Wars fan as well as a creator. He's the apprentice of George Lucas, so he's going to have a very specific perception of Boba Fett as a character. Remember, of course, Boba Fett was also in the Clone Wars, so Dave Filoni is not unfamiliar, but by the sounds of things, it doesn't seem like he was the biggest Boba Fett fan in the world, and at least doesn't see him in the same way that diehard Boba Fett fans do. But it's really interesting to break this down, and I really hope we do eventually get a second season of the show. I guess what a lot of fans, myself included, want in a second season of Boba is more character introspection, bigger villains, bigger adventures, and maybe leave Tatooine. At the moment though, The Mandalorian Season 3 is coming up in just under 2 months' time. I really can't wait, guys, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Boba's story continues there first. Share your thoughts in the comments down below, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. May the Force be with you always.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a very potent moment in Star Wars history. You know, you have this the Empire is consolidating its power and crushing everything down, and rebellion is popping up all over the galaxy in all kinds of random and weird ways, and it's watching that come together, and it's watching revolution come together in a really unusual way. It's a really cool opportunity to write about that topic, and I don't know where else you would have a chance to do that. So that's really one of the things that's really exciting. But it's a very exciting moment in history there.